So the objective of my presentation, I will first show how open source desktop environment is a good option for any organization to go with. And then I will share our experience in deploying the open source environment on the desktops. And then I will give you and share some guidelines that would help anyone that want to go with deploying open source desktop environment in his organization. And to do so, I will first start by giving you a little explanation about what is XP Computer Center, which is the organization that did this project or deployed the open source desktop environment. After that, we will go through the Linux evolution, then give you some reasons why we'd go for Linux. After that, we will see how Linux was deployed in ECC and the evolution of Linux in ECC especially, and then the migration steps that we went for when we deployed the project or within the project. After that, we will share some added values that Aramco benefit from having an open source desktop environment. And I will finalize by sharing some tips regarding when you want to go with this approach and deploy an open source desktop environment. So to start with, what is XP Computer Center? XP Computer Center in Aramco, the core business of Aramco is to explore oil and produce it and then distribute it to the market. So we have upstream and downstream. Upstream, where we explore and produce oil, and the main functionalities we have is exploration, and we have production. Exploration done by geophysicists and geologists, and production done by petroleum engineers. These are the most important users in Aramco. And for those two main users, we have a dedicated IT resource and IT people that support them, which is XP Computer Center. We take care of everything they use, clusters, desktops, network storage, everything. These users use two main desktop environments. They have Red Hat or Linux, and they have Windows. But today we'll focus on the Linux side. So Linux was introduced in the market in 1991, but before that there is a whole history before 1991, where it started in 1957. It will be fast, don't worry, it will not take that much time in the history. An operating system called BSys was developed by Bell Labs, a communication company, in 1957. After that, in 1965, another operating system that is based on BSys was developed called Multics. And in 1969, Multics was withdrawn from the market, and many users were using this operating system. So therefore, they have to develop another operating system that will host their applications that were running before on Multics. Two guys, Ken and Dennis, came and created an operating system called Unix, the well-known Unix. And from there on until 1991, Unix was dominating the market when it comes to a reliable and stable operating system, but only for the user side. But from the developer side, they were not happy because the source code was not available for them. They want to learn how the operating system was developed. In 1983, there was a move by Richard Stallman, where he started the GNU project, which is, I think it's known for a lot of you here. The project idea is to build operating system, to build applications under where the source code is available for everyone. In 1990, Linus Torvalds, the godfather of Linux, or the developer of Linux, started taking operating system course. And from there on, he created his operating system, Linux, which he learned from the book written by Andrew Tenenberg, where we have an operating system for learning purposes called Minix. This operating system was used by Linus, but he didn't like things of it, so he created another operating system called Linux. And in 1991, it was introduced to the market. So after you see this whole history of Linux, why would anyone go for Linux? For many reasons, and one of the most important reasons that the governments themselves are moving toward Linux, big governments. And not only that, even big companies like Google, Pixar, Amazon, they are using Linux in their desktop environment. So you have to go with the train of technology and move with these big factors in the market. This led to another reason, that when big government are going to Linux, so many developers are developing applications for Linux. And of course, cost saving, and we're not talking about the operating system itself as a fee only, but we are talking about the total cost of ownership, where we're not talking about only buying the product, we're talking about supporting the product, maintaining the product, the certificates, everything as a sum will cost you less than other operating system. And finally is the ease of migration. In our experience, I will talk about moving from Unix to Linux. But this can apply from moving from any operating system to Linux, because there are many methods of migration that you can follow. So, Linux in ECC, how did we start? First, we had Unix servers in the server side, and we had Unix workstation for the users. But when Linux appeared in the market, we waited until 2001 to make sure that Linux is really mature, that can handle our sensitive data. And in 2001, we moved the server side only to Linux. After that, in 2005, we moved the user side also to Linux Red Hat, which will next see the steps how we did that. How did we migrate from Unix to Linux? So how we did that? The first and most important step that you have to do is to collect the applications that were running on Unix. Because if you missed one application that is used by a huge number of users, you can jeopardize the whole project. You have to make sure that you collect all the important and non-important applications, everything. After that, you have to certify the applications. And what I mean by certifying the applications, that the application is, first of all, Linux. Second thing is the application is supported on Linux by its vendor. Sometimes the application can run on Linux, but it's not supported by the vendor. So you have to make sure it has the both criteria achieved there. Then after that, we start testing the application. Of course, someone would ask, why would you test the application if it's already running on Linux and it's supported? I'm talking about more thorough testing, where we have some customization, some environment variables that we have to set in for our specific environment. So we have to test these things, our customization, when it comes to the application. And after that, we start mass deployment for all the users. Okay, I will share some numbers with you, where, as you can see, we're not talking about 100 applications, for example. We're talking about near 600 applications that we migrated from Unix to Linux. And like for 70 applications passed the test, and we migrated them, and only 150 application or 115 application, they didn't pass. And for these applications that didn't pass, we didn't just stick with Unix. No, we moved the application from the workstation itself to a server, to a Unix server. And we took the Unix workstation from the users, and we give them Linux workstations. It took one full year from us, where we divided the year to many stages, deployment, and before that testing, and the things that I showed before. What would you benefit if you would go for Linux? From Aramco side, the thing that we got and we benefit from is, first of all, cost saving, and it was explained a lot in the previous presentations. Second thing is that we were free of vendor lock. We don't have to use anymore the workstations provided by Sun Solaris, for example, to run Sun Solaris. We can go with any commodity hardware that will fit our requirements. Sometimes we need more requirements. Sometimes we don't need that much requirement that are provided by the vendor. So you are free of the vendor lock. We have more administration and monitoring tools. We have a lot of free security tools, because a lot of eyes are checking the code when it comes to your operating system. So you can make sure that a lot of people are taking care of that, and you have a lot of security tools that are provided in the market. And last thing, that you can apply your customization easily. So to conclude with, if you want to go with that approach, you want to migrate from an operating system to Linux, things that you need to take care of, that first, don't be cost-driven. Don't think only about the cost, because sometimes it can trick you. The cost, the initial cost can be really amazing. You can see it costs nothing, so let's go with it. No, but the maintenance after that can take more. So you have to take care really and build your decision on a careful analysis of the cost. After that, you have to be ready to conflict with the users. Users will not accept changes easily because you're taking an environment from them that is working fine, and you're giving them a new environment, which they didn't ask for. So you have to be ready for conflicts with them. And third thing is that to achieve that, to avoid conflict with the user, you have to set clear objectives and criteria, and don't underestimate any user requirements. Anything the user tells you that he needs it, either you convince him that he doesn't need it, or you provide it to him. And lastly, that you have to expect that the productivity of your organization will decline when you in the transition period, when you move from one operating system to another. And to plan that correctly, you can do the transition period in times where many people go for vacation, for example, June and July. You make your transition period in that period.
يمان ترى الوقت قرب شوي.
Thank you.
طيب ممتاز. توقيت ممتاز.
Thank you so much.
طيب شكرا.